Hello, and welcome back to the Have We Made It Yet podcast. It's the first episode of 2023, and we're excited to be back. I'm one of your co-hosts, the comedian Josh Young.
And thank you for having me. My name is Lucas Ng, the actor portion of this podcast.
Yes, he is. He is Lucas Ng, the actor portion. And welcome to the Have We Made It Yet podcast. It's where two creatives talk about their process of making it. And usually we like to have some friends and guests along the way sharing their experience. But you know what? I feel like I got to ask you this question, Lucas, because we've done it 77 times up until now. It would make no sense if we didn't. First time asking in the year of our Lord 2023, have you made it yet?
Lord Jesus Christ, if I were to lie, it would be a major sin. So no, I have not made it yet. Although I right before this, I was memorizing some lines for a new Hallmark movie that's going to be filming here pretty soon.
Nice.
I mean, I'll just put this out there. You know, I don't feel too confident with that part and all that stuff. And also, like, I was watching the Banshees of Inisherin last night.
Ooh.
And one of the, this might be actually, I can't go into it because it's a major spoiler, but it talks about like an artist like cutting off things.
Jesus.
I think I just ruined it for them. Anyways, but it talks. Yeah. Anyways, I'm giving away way too much already, but basically like an artist cutting off their major tool that they use for their craft.
Their penis?
Sorry. I'm not going to go into it.
I don't know why. It was the first thing I thought of because it's either that or their tool, the craft. Van Gogh cut off his ear. But anyways, I do need to watch. I do need to watch that movie.
But just continuation of that. Just I'm like losing my voice right now because I have like a cold, so I can't really talk, much less vocalize too well right now. So as an actor, I need my voice. So I'm losing it, man. I'm losing it. Anyways, things will get better. Anyways, Mr. Josh Young.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you made it yet?
I have not made it yet. Getting back into podcasting has been a little tough. I pushed myself. I really wanted to get the 12 days in a row of welcoming back the Sleep with Josh podcast. I managed to get about 7 out in a row, and then I was like burnt out for like a couple of weeks, especially going back to work and stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to get some of the last ones out. But I need to get back into that 2023, resolutions and get back onto a schedule. But it's slowly getting there, but it could be better. But it's nice to see that we're back here on this podcast, the Have We Made It Yet podcast.
Hell yeah.
And today we do have a very excellent guest. He's kind of a deep cut. He's a bit of a deep cut guest because I go way back with this guest, all the way to when we were quiet Asian kids in high school. Yeah. I don't know why I stopped there.
Yeah.
I know our guest today from high school. We actually reconnected at the high school reunion last summer, and it was great to see him again. He had a bit of a glow up. I'm not gonna, it's gonna be pretty interesting for our viewers, but he had a bit of a glow up since high school, and he's a very in tune guy in the stunt coordinator, stunt action industry in Vancouver. Based out of Vancouver, but he is also a director, filmmaker. Just want to make sure I get this right. He's directed several action shorts, some of which you can find on his YouTube channel Eunoia Creations, and that's been going on for years. I remember seeing that in university when he first started putting action shorts on it. And his last production, it was kind of an interesting project that he told me about last summer, is saw him go to Africa, East not East Africa, in Tanzania, to actually go shoot a documentary about a kung fu school in Tanzania called, I think it's Shaolin. Let me see if I have this correct. Shaolin Tanzania. And while he was there for 17 days with a whole team of stunt coordinators and filmmakers. And yeah, he was teaching the students there about film creation, filmmaking, so that they could also tell their own stories through the power and magic of filmmaking. So I'm very happy to introduce my old friend, Stanton Chong.
Woo! And button click.
Button click.
As you guys were doing the intro, I was smiling behind everything. It's nice to see you guys. Yeah, this is awesome to see. It's awesome to be part of, and thank you for having me on board.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on. For me, especially whenever it's like I see high school, even just at the reunion, seeing like high school friends and how they've changed or grown in the last 10, 12 years. It's great to have you on the podcast and have you share your experience, which is why I got to ask you the big question, because that's why we all get paid the no dollars on this podcast. Stanton, have you made it yet?
So I was thinking about this answer over the last few days, and I have two answers to give you.
Ooh, we got a double.
Share. On one hand, no, but on the other hand, yes. And the reason, and I'll highlight these reasons. I feel like if I was to go back in time and spoke with my childhood self, say whether I was 10 or 15, and then I was to go up to him and shared with him the character of who I am now, I feel like my childhood self would say, yes, you made it, because of who I've become in the process of working, hustling, living life, etc., etc. A lot of my childhood dreams I was able to do a lot of my childhood dreams. So in that sense, I would say yes. However, if you were to ask me again, and if I was to answer it at face value, and I was to answer it as authentically as possible from my current perspective, I would say no, because I feel like there's a lot to be worked on for myself, both personally, professionally, and just in life in general. I think life is an ongoing journey of learning, both externally and internally. And I think having the mentality of wanting to continue to be better, I think that's what life is about. And so you never really make it, I don't think. I think you can strive to pursue it. But yeah, that's kind of my long answer to it.
Yeah. And I feel like you kind of know with the guests that we have on, those who have kind of been through it and like have experienced that is ultimately a lot of the takeaway from their experiences. Like, yeah, based upon what my impression of the industry would be or what I wanted to do, it's like, wow, I've done so much. But then it's like, at the same time, once you grow and once you learn and once you just experience a bit more, it's like, oh man, then you want more, or it's like you just always see kind of that next step. What would you say right now you would consider as like, maybe not necessarily like, oh, you made it, but like a goal that is like your next big goal that you want to achieve on your path to whatever making it means?
I think it would be to learn to accept myself of who I am and continue to portray myself as authentically as possible, both in personal and professional relationships. I think that is my goal moving forward. However, that can also extend out to career, which is doing things that is authentic to me, doing things that I feel like would be a benefit to the world, to myself, to the people around me, and just trying to be better, whether that be in the medium of filmmaking or in the medium of business or in anything in general. I just, I'm in a weird place right now. Like, I have the intention to try to become a better person, but it's the different avenues that I'm searching for right now. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, like I see from your IMDb that in addition to being a director, you've also been like a producer and also an editor too. In talking about like the different roles that you are taking on, especially with the medium of filmmaking, which of those two roles, either an editor or a producer, do you think has made you to be a better director?
That's a really good question. I would say editing. And the reason for that is because it is annoying. It is a very annoying task because you got to sit in front of the computer for hours and hours on end. However, as an editor, you see all the mistakes that's made on set. And because of that, on the next project, you can, at least for me, I get to think, oh, okay, I made this mistake on the last project, and this is what I noticed in the editing room. Okay, I won't do this next time, or maybe I'll do it in another way next time. And that facilitated in the direction that I want to move forward while directing. So I would say editing is my greatest learning experience for directing. However, with producing, I think the reason I produce is only to get the projects done, to help to facilitate it, to use that role as like as the legwork for the creative side of it, right? And in doing that, I also learned a lot about directing, and the reason for that is because you learn the logistics side of things. You learn why you can't and can do things, and for those reasons, you learn to be creative around it.
Nice. I love how at times like art imitates life, just because you had said as an editor, you could see from a third party perspective, like different mistakes that you could see or different things that you do want to do better at or even encourage more, just because you're distanced away from it, from the actual point of making it, you know, such as life too. Like when you take a step back, then you can really reassess as your journey of becoming a better person then kind of comes into fruition, because then you can really have perspective. Sorry, Josh, I'm not sure if you did have another question on there, but I did want to ask you more about like your stunt work and you as a performer too, because just watching some of your shorts and some of the choreography that you put your actors through and also yourself through. In terms of just performance though, how have you managed to keep yourself in tip-top shape so you don't get injured during the process of choreography and letting your actors do your choreography?
I see. I just want to kind of create a precedent. I am not a stunt performer. However, I work within the stunt community and for the stunt department. And I guess my role within that would be the action designer, which essentially, what essentially it is I facilitate the action scenes through the perspective of camera and editing. So I'll kind of give you a rundown of what it's all about. So essentially, like, the stunt department received the script. They have like a walkthrough, and they have like a production meeting and discussion about the concept of it. The stunt department, the stunt corner, the boss, the face of the stunt department would take the script, share with the team, and talk about what the scene entails. And then from then on, the choreographer would start building the fight scene, building the scenes based on the director's direction. And then once the scene is built, I would come in and I would help film and edit the scene. And what that serves is it helps create an idea what the scene looks like so that we can send it to the producers and directors in the studio for what it looks like. And so then they will either mimic it or use it as a point of reference to create the actual show. And yeah, So to answer your question, yeah, I just try to stay fit, because if I'm amongst athletes, I want to be, if I'm amongst them, I want to try to be on the same level as them. I want to try to associate with them and have a degree of respect with each other. So if they're training hard, I want to be training hard as well, just so that we can have this type of camaraderie with each other.
Mm-hmm. Is there something about that action design world? Because it's like a world within a world of filmmaking. Like, what part of that attracted you the most to be like, that's the area I want to specialize in and do filmmaking through?
I actually, well, as a young kid, I've always enjoyed watching like action videos, such as like Once Upon a Time in China 1, 2, 3, 4 with Jet Li. Those were my favorite videos and movies. So in seeing those, I always thought that I wanted to be an action star. I always thought I could be that cool guy doing like no shadow kick, you know. But then I stumbled upon some aspiring stunt performers in my early 20s, and they wanted to shoot fights. They wanted to do fights. So in order to shoot fights, there needs to be a camera guy, right? There needs to be a guy filming it all. So I became the filming guy. And in doing that, I've learned to really enjoy it. So then I continued to make more action videos that you see on YouTube. They're really fun, funky, weird sometimes, but it is what it is. And so in doing that, I really enjoyed making action videos because it was always very exciting. And I was able to learn a lot, and I was able to play with the edit, add some little VFX to tell a story. And through that, I was reached out by a few stunt coordinators to help with a production. And then in doing that, it taught me a lot more about how the industry worked. And through working with them and building the action design of different shows and features, it gave me a love for it because I was still able to continue my filmmaking art, my filmmaking passion within the realm of film. And so I just enjoyed doing that, and I just continue doing that.
Nice. I did want to ask you also, like, I was watching some of your shorts, and there was one, I forgot the title though, but it was like a femme fatale kind of one where like the girl or the antagonist or protagonist was just like slashing away at some of your actors. It was like, Who Is She? Was that the title?
Yeah.
Dude, that looked badass, man, including all of, like the blood design and art design and everything like that. Of course, like I see a lot of like horror and also action and everything like that in terms of your genres that you like to dabble in. But have you considered like any type of like comedy action that you did want to dabble in later on in life or anything?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it when like people like watch the videos and and compliment me on it. So thank you so much. It makes me feel really, really good. So yeah. Comedy. So I've done a few comedy shorts. I'm not sure if all of them are on YouTube. I'm not very organized. But I've done a few, and I do also enjoy them a lot. Because with comedy, anything goes really, and anything can be funny so long as you make it drastic from what is expected. And the thing with comedy, in my perspective, is yes, it's an art form, but a lot of mistakes can be fixed just through editing. And you can just always cut away with it, or use sound design to accentuate like a really dumb moment, and it'll be funny. So yes, I would be very interested in comedy, just because I can play, and it's also a very fun vibe on set as well.
Do you, in that case, is like Jackie Chan or Jet Li?
I have really big appreciation for both of them.
That's such a political answer.
It is, and it is. But
I know, I get it. They're both like it really is hard to choose.
Right. I grew up watching Jet Li.
There we go.
I grew up watching Jet Li. However, I was blessed to be able to work for Jackie on the project abroad.
Wow.
So and so in seeing that, it was like you can see the work ethic out in China. It's crazy. And then the amount of respect that he's garnered and the amount of respect that he embodies with the people around him, it's just so fascinating to see. And it was a blessing to be a part of, because in working on that production, it has taught me a lot about film and about myself and where I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So from that respect, I also really respect and Jackie as a role model for what he's created in film.
Yeah, he's definitely he's like a machine, because he's basically our, well, I mean, not our Tom Cruise. He's in it of himself his own section of cinema history.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got such longevity into it. What was when was the production you worked on with Jackie?
This was I believe late 2016 for the feature called Bleeding Steel.
Wow, cool. So on that production, what kind of stuff did you do?
I was doing the same thing. So I was part of the previous action design. So I was just
Mm-hmm.
helping out with the action scenes, helping out with the stunt team, helping out with the stunt coordinator, Max Huang. And yeah, I was just helping out with the action from the perspective of camera and editing.
You know what? Now that must be like an invaluable experience, because if you're talking about the film industry and like the history of it, Jackie Chan Stunt Team is like legendary. Like they've got just decades and decades of history and knowledge behind it. Like, what was one of the takeaways from seeing how their stunt team worked that you're like, this is what I got to do as well?
The main thing that I took away from it was their work ethic. We were working 18 to 22-hour days.
What?
Yeah. I remember like this was when we were in China. Like every day before we went to work, we were sitting on a bus to travel about like I don't remember, like 10-20 miles to wherever the set was. And I remember the guys on the bus, these Chinese guys, they were like, "We got to make the money. We got to make the money." It's so down, and then it's so cloudy everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was like the first big project that I really got to work with. So I'm kind of just following along and just going with the flow and trying to do my best with everything that was given to me. So I would say it's the work ethic. And two is the way they worked with each other, because like the stunt team, Jackie Chan Stunt Team, they have control of the set when it comes to the action. And it's not usually the case here, it's not usually the case here in Vancouver, but because they had that, they were able to shoot what was designed in prep. And for that reason, that really made the action look good. And I was just really grateful to be a part of that, because that taught me a lot about action design, taught me a lot about the nuances of comedy and storytelling within the action. And then knowing how to work as a team and with the team to create cool stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a little interview of Jackie explaining like a scene that maybe it was Police Story or one from like Hong Kong in like the 80s or 90s, where he's like breaking down the scene and the action and the comedic elements of it. It's like that kind of knowledge only comes from like trial and error in the beginning and just being in the industry for so long. I know for Eunoia Creations, you started that a long time ago. And if anything, I remember when you first kind of started posting about it, it's like, oh, that's interesting. Stanton's doing this now. It's like, that makes sense. I remember first seeing Stanton perform at our senior December talent show, where he performed performed a Taekwondo. Yeah. No, he performed a Taekwondo display. And at the end, grand finale, he did a full backflip in front of the entire school. And like, oh shit, everybody went crazy. And it's like, damn, what a moment. I don't know how I got into that, but I do want to talk more about how was that experience for you? Because that was like, I remember that was high school, and like I was a quiet kid. I remember you were also a quiet kid. Like, how was that experience to do a backflip in front of the whole school?
I'll be honest, I can't remember.
Just blacked out.
However, I do. In hindsight, yes, I was very quiet. I was very timid. But martial arts for me back then was kind of like my output for my personality, for who I am. And I thinking about it now, yes, I think I was a little bit nervous when performing that, and I'm just so glad I landed that backflip because it would be very embarrassing.
I think I remember the great thing about watching that was that it's like you were in your element. Like even if everybody maybe I was like, oh, Stanton, he's kind of like the quiet guy, but like because you were showcasing your element, that's where you were you. That is like it came off great. So it's like that's the thing where I think everybody, even especially around that age, is like, you know, everybody has our preconceptions of each other, but once we're actually in the thing that we enjoy and that we can feel the most comfortable in, it just comes across as like, you know, more confident and just more interesting. The reason I went there is like going back from the beginning of Eunoia. How has that experience starting that and creating and doing everything from the pre and the post and shooting and editing all the way up until like when you started doing bigger projects is like how much of that experience and that trial and error for you has influenced where you are now and how you approach things?
That's a really good question. I think I would say ever since I started, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I kind of just went with the flow and just did things to get things done. And doing more of these videos, I learned that I actually really enjoyed it. And then through that enjoyment, I continued making more, try to gather some friends together to create more stuff just for the fun of it, you know, and try to get views, try to be like, try to make it on YouTube, you know, that's the deal. Obviously it didn't work out, but whatever. But I would say what the biggest things that I've learned in making these videos that carried over to where I am now is, I would say, the work ethic, because there's no money to be made. You don't really get anything from it besides the fact that you made something and then you can show it to all your friends and you're like, oh shit, we made something. Let's make another one, you know?
Yeah.
So like, because I knew, I guess in hindsight, because I knew I was able to do that, I knew I was able to do bigger projects. And it's not to say that these big projects are paying me or paying me a lot or anything like that, but in the realm of passion, it gave me the drive to continue doing it because I know I can already do it and I can continue to enjoy it.
Yeah. I love that point, just because also we do see some like recurring faces in your YouTube shorts and everything like that. And one of the major things that I did see as a major benefit from you creating your own content was the community that you have built. And I do see that the friends that you have now and the people that you collaborate with are amazing performers too at the same time too. So it really does speak to your way of hustling and creating that community, because without that, it is really hard to do your dream alone.
Totally. I think we, as people move in packs, I don't think anybody can really do anything on their own. And a good team of passionate individuals, a good team of passionate, driven individuals, I think is the key to anything. Because like you go through hardships and it's cool and it's nice to be to do it alongside other people as well. And that's what I wish we can continue to do in the next 5-10 years or so.
Love it. Speaking of finding the right people, let's start talking about how you found your way to Africa, a Kung Fu story. What a segue. And how you got involved with the other 5 guys on that team for Black Monk Productions to go to Tanzania and be able to shoot that documentary. Just to get a little background from your experience, like how did you get involved with that project?
So I actually asked the director of that project. His name is Eric Mazampaka, and he actually shared with me the reason why he wanted me to go with him. So it's been a long journey. So I was over the last, it is 2023 right now. I think from 2017 until roughly around 2021, I was working on the production Supergirl as an action designer for the stunt team. Stunt coordinator was Simon Burnett, and within the work, I got the chance to work with multiple different performers that came in to rehearse to perform, right? And one of the performers was Eric, our director. And when working, I'm also very quiet. I like to observe and then execute. I like to observe what's happening around me and then gather enough information to do what I need to do. And what Eric shared with me was that he really liked how observant I was, and how I like to listen. He said I like how I like to listen and try to find different ways to execute. And so then he wanted that on his project, for this ambitious project. So I think I would say from his perspective, it was like a 3-4 year process. For me, he just asked me out of nowhere and be like, hey, do you want to come to Africa? I'm like, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Let me know the details and we'll talk about it. So, because I guess he's very perspicacious in his own way as well, right? So yeah, that's how I got involved, and we grouped together and away we went, and we just made the project happen, and now we're here.
Wow.
Yeah. No, that's definitely I mean, I feel like that makes that's like the common story in the industry, is like you work on different productions and projects, you meet different people, and then it's through that, it's like where people remember what it's like working with you. It's like, hey, if they like working with you, that helps a long way towards them asking you if you want to join the production. Yeah. When it comes to then like setting things up or going there, I don't know if you've ever been to Africa before, but what was one of the first things that you noticed about arriving in Africa and starting the 17 days of the production that really changed your perspective going in?
I definitely had a culture shock the moment I landed and the moment we got to where we lived. I would say the biggest lesson that I've learned in experiencing that trip would be, I'm thinking of 5 different things, but I'm trying to kind of pull it into one. Okay, here's one. So, and I think this is very relatable to our lives, like our everyday lives, which is when I was there for a little bit over 2.5 weeks, about 2.5 weeks. And in staying there for 2.5 weeks, it felt like I actually lived 2.5 weeks. Like I was living every single moment of it. But in contrast, when I'm back in Vancouver, I feel like 2.5 weeks just flies by in like 2 days, right?
True.
And so the lesson in that is, I think the reason why I felt that way is because when I was there, I was trying to take everything in. I was trying to be as present as possible, to enjoy the culture, to enjoy the beauty of it, and to focus on the project, but while at the same time be very alert of what's around me. I was always on, and in doing that, it allowed me to be a lot more focused in who I am and what I'm doing and what my surroundings are. And I feel like, or at least for me, I don't really do that as much in my hometown in Vancouver. And as a result of that, I feel like life just passes by. So to extrapolate that same lesson to here, what I try to do now that I'm here is to try to be more aware and to pay attention to more things around me, to pay attention to what I am doing, why I'm doing things, and to act a little bit more authentic in everything that I do, just so that I can reap out of life as much as possible in every single moment, because time goes by so fast, man. Like, and that's one of the biggest lessons I've taken away from it. And I know it's outside of the production, but it's more of like a life lesson that I've learned. But that's one that really stuck out to me, and that's something I want to live by more for myself.
Definitely, man. And it's kind of cool. It's like it's only through being present and being cognizant would someone actually understand that there's actually like a Shaolin presence within Tanzania and everything like that. I was wondering, how did the doc story even come about, and what inspired the director and also yourself to actually go film it?
So in East Africa, Tanzania, there's a group of training Shaolin kids at a Shaolin temple, training martial arts. And they are very talented, so talented. They're doing flips on concrete, man, and jumping so high. So you can only imagine how they started learning how to do that in the first place, you know? So they're just so talented. However, there's no eyes on them, and nobody knows who they are, but they're training really hard. They don't really know what else is out there, like what we know about the world, right? So Eric, because he noticed the talent there, he wanted to shine some light on them and then give them the confidence that, hey, your hard work will pay off one day. That's kind of the idea of it. And his direction, his intention with this entire project would be to give them freedom through cinema. Essentially, that's what it's all about. To help them experience more of the world, have more eyes on them through the hard work of martial arts. And on top of that, the reason why Eric wanted to bring me and the other guys on board was so that we can teach them the art of filmmaking. So, and I'll just expand on that a little bit. So we had, I believe, 3 different classes. First class was there was a guy teaching them how to write, the concept of writing. The second class was teaching them the concept of cinematography. And the third, which was what myself and Dan Ganane was teaching, was the art of filming action. And combining all 3 of them, gives them the tools to learn how to make movies themselves, so that now that we're here, they can spend all their time on their own with their iPhones or with their cameras to make movies on their own and put it on social media. So eventually, if that one person sees their talent, maybe they might be able to get an opportunity to maybe travel elsewhere or to do a little bit more things. And then with everything, like the reason why we filmed the documentary is so that we can shine even more light on them to share with the world of what they are capable of and what their skill sets are.
Awesome. It's somewhat reminiscent of Masai Ujiri recently did a doc called Giants of Africa, which spotlights like a lot of African players that are trying to strive into the NBA and everything. That's amazing here, that it's not just solely about Kung Fu and Shaolin training. It's like teaching kids the medium filmmaking, because it is such a all-encompassing craft that is so needing of so many different skill sets, and it's incredible. I did want to lastly ask you, like, during this doc though, what have you learned about the international appeal of Kung Fu as a result of your documentary?
I think I have 2 answers for that. First answer is, I think martial arts and Kung Fu can be misunderstood from those who do not do it, and like they might see it as like a dance or like some sort of like thing that you just do for no reason at all, right? But on the flip side of it, martial arts is a way to connect everybody. And the reason for that is because, like, I trained Taekwondo as a kid, martial arts. And I'm blessed to be able to still be part of the martial arts community without I still train here and there in the background, but then still be a part of it just through the idea of martial arts. And when I was there, the cool thing about it was that whenever we were training with them or whenever we were filming and interacting with them, the idea of martial arts was what helped us communicate with each other through movement, through the spirit of hard work, because there's also a language barrier, right? So we had to communicate it. We had to communicate through body language, using 1 or 2 words and then try to describe whatever we're trying to describe, right? So, and then martial arts was something that we were able to use to communicate to the other person through, just that in itself. And in understanding that, I think there's a beauty in it. because ultimately it can still transcend through different countries and different people without the use of language, or without the use of verbal language.
Love it. Man.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is because it's such a fusion and combination of different cultures and origins, like Kung Fu going to East Africa and blending in with like how local sensibilities or local viewpoints are. And then you guys are coming in with more of like a North American kind of like action cinematography type of experience and vision. When it came together, where you like were teaching them how to put it all together in like short action films or how to direct action shots, was there something that you saw in how the kids approached that kind of filmmaking or those action sequences that was unique to their perspective?
One thing that we noticed when we were sharing our knowledge was that they learned really, really quickly. Like it's almost as if we didn't have to fully describe everything, but we were just able to like plant a little concept, the idea of why you do things, right? And then they would use that seed and then apply it to everything that they already know and just do their own thing. So that was really cool to see. It's very cool to see now, because on social media they're starting to actually make a little bit more action videos, you know, and because they're making it, and because they were, I guess, inspired by what we were doing, it has given them the confidence to make more, and they feel like they have the knowledge to do more now. And yes, it might be they may have only started it, but time is really long, you know, like in 5 years, who knows where they can go? In 10 years, who knows they can go? And that was actually the intention of our director too, to plant a seed. So then in 5, 10, 20, 30 years, what can they become because of that? And then, yeah, I think there's a beauty in time, and yeah, we'll see.
Are they on TikTok?
I don't know, but I know they're on Instagram.
Okay, because they got to get that TikTok algorithm working for them.
It's true.
That's like how a lot of that stuff blows up. But one other question I have is like, where are these like kids coming from? Like, is the origin of how these kids come in through just local families, or is there any other kind of like story behind like where these kids are coming from to go do the Shaolin Tanzania?
I think a lot of them, a few of them are the grandsons of the grandmaster. Talk too much about it, but the documentary will highlight a little bit more about the backstory of it. Yeah. But essentially, like they come. There's a lot of different kids, a lot of different students, right? And some of them come from different families, from different parts of the city, the town, and they all come together just to train. Sometimes they live together. They live like in like a little like 5x5 like room, and they just sleep, eat together, and then train together. And that's their life. That's kind of like, yeah, their calling, I guess. And they try to do it as much as they can.
Yeah, because I remember like seeing YouTube videos of the Shaolin temples in China, and like they're doing performances for the visitors, sharing the cultural elements, but also like you can tell that that's just their way of life as well, in terms of waking up in the morning, doing chores, doing practices. Cool. Well, I mean, that was already such a unique story and experience when you said that you were gonna go do it, that I knew I felt like we needed to have you on the podcast to share it, because it's like, you know, when you're making, you never know where you're gonna go, and like the different experiences that will inform what you want to do. So like coming back from that production, is there an element of like how that's going to like influence you moving forward, or like put you on a path where it's like, oh, maybe I want to do this as a result of this experience?
It's definitely motivated me to work harder in everything that I do, because in seeing them work hard with what they have, and it like there's no excuse for me to not work hard. So that's one thought. And how I want to apply that to my projects and my future career is to do the exact same thing, to wake up early, to work as hard as I can with everything I do and try to go after everything. Because how can I be a role model to other people if I don't live like how they live? How can I, the question I ask myself is like, okay, they're working really hard. How can I claim myself as a teacher or someone that's sharing knowledge if I'm not willing to work just as hard as them, if not more, right? So that's what I've brought back with me. In terms of making more projects, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's always it's so weird because I in terms of like project, it's always going with the flow. I am trying to be a lot more proactive now with going after projects and finding ways to do it, both monetarily and logistically and creatively. So yeah, I'm always searching for other opportunities or other stuff that speaks to me, and try to execute as authentically as possible. I think that's for myself.
Love it.
I mean, it is part of the journey, man. That is like part of the experience of finding out what's that next thing, what's that next passion, what's that next project, and what's that next thing monetarily that can support us as well, because that's also a big part of it, and we all need to figure out a way to do that.
I know,
but that's a huge part of it. But yeah, no, excited to see the final documentary when what's the timeline for when it gets released?
We don't have plans on releasing it yet, or at least the outlets of it yet. However, the goal is to complete it by the end of 2023.
Okay,
nice.
So we're all doing like post-production and crafting the story behind it. Great. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on it, and through like all your different social medias when it comes time to it. I know you can follow it on Instagram and check out the website as well. Instagram, I believe it's called a Kung Fu Story. I think I had it up here. Yeah, a_Kung Fu Story is what you can search it up on Instagram. But before we end off, we usually like to just do a little palate cleanser, a little light game with our guests, because once we talk into the experiences and the learnings and the lessons and the emotions of making it, it's like it can get a little intense. So we usually like to ask our guests a final question where it's like, would you rather? It's like, would you rather this or would you rather that? So Lucas,
oh man,
you kick it off with your first one.
Let's go. I mean, I picked a rather intense one just because, yeah, I don't know. I just figured like we could go with more intensity. We'll really lean into it. Okay, my girlfriend's coming back right now, so hold on a second. Okay,
We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live. All right. Okay, Stanton. Again, this might be too intense. Whatever. Who cares? Would you rather know when you're going to die or how you're going to die?
Sick. Oh man, you know what? I do like that though. I like that.
Would I rather know when I'm gonna die or how I'm gonna die?
Yes.
I have to choose one.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I got an answer. If I had to choose one, I'd rather know when I'm gonna die. And the reason for that is because I think death gives life meaning. And if I know when I'm gonna die, I would put my life timeline on like an abstract map or a spectrum or whatever you call it, and I would decide, okay, what is the best move I should do given this time frame for my soul, for my heart, for my career, for everything in life,
Yeah.
And so then I would be able to act accordingly and do things accordingly, so that by the time my time is up, I would have lived all the things that I wanted to live and to do all the things I wanted to do, to share all the things I want to share with no regrets.
Hell yeah. Project management of your own life when you do have like a leave off or blast off date.
I guess
Love it.
Yeah. What about you guys? What about you guys? I gotta ask that to you guys as well.
I'm kind of interested in how I'm gonna die, to be honest, and if it's like actually cool, you know. Like if I die choking on like a gummy bear while I'm laughing, it's like, that's kind of on brand for me. But I'm kind of curious. Yeah.
I would be like, there's some pros and cons to each, because it's like knowing when you're gonna die, then it's like, well, then that means I could do a bunch of dangerous things and I know I'm not gonna die. Though granted, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't suffer tremendously or be in a coma or whatever like that. True. But like having that definitive end date, I feel like if you answer that, you're assuming and you're hoping that it's gonna be when you're 75 or like 80, as opposed to it's like, oh, you're gonna die next week, by the way. Oh, well, I wasted that choice. But it's like, but then on the flip side, it's like, if you know how you're gonna die, depending on what that is, I wonder how much that would actually affect how I, go about my life. Because it's like, if it's skydiving accident, it was like, huh, well, perfect, I'm never gonna go skydiving then. And then it's like, what if you just accidentally fell out of a plane and that's what it is? Okay, so then maybe I'm not gonna go on a plane ever again. But then it's like, so I'm just neurotic and I overthink things. So either decision would be terrible for me.
Totally.
But maybe I probably want to know when I die. Okay, so my question, Stanton, when it comes to shooting an action short, would you rather shoot all the action sequences where the fighters or characters only use their hands and arms, or they can only use their legs and feet when performing the action?
I think there's a lot to do. I think there's a lot you can do with hands, a lot more than I don't have the knowledge for it yet. But I would probably choose feet only because I did Taekwondo, and it would be in shooting something like that. If I was to choose between one of them between the two, I feel like it'd be a lot more meaningful to shoot an action scene with just your feet. Because I would be able to relate to it a little bit better.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was wondering in terms of a creative execution, like which one seems more dynamic? Like which one would it be like coming off the screen is like, maybe like, yeah, it just feels like you can do more with it visually, or like with hands and arms, like is it more intimate, or you can tell a story through that, or it's like, but then the feet, it's like you could get creative with it. So interesting. Okay, cool. Maybe that'll be like a pseudo challenge for you. It's like just do one where it's only feet, just only legs and feet.
I'll do that one day. I'll share that with you.
Yeah, nice. yeah. And they'll be like, where'd you come up with this idea? A friend of mine asked me on a podcast. Yeah. He just asked me on a podcast and was like, okay, we could try it.
Send it to Quentin later too. Quentin Tarantino. He'd love it, man.
I just add a lot of blood and like gore in it,
Yeah.
A lot of feet shots.
Yeah. Oh man. But great. Okay. Well, thank you so much for answering those would you rather questions, and also coming onto the podcast and sharing with us your making it experience, making a journey. Do you want to share with us and our audience all your socials, or like where people can find you?
I'm very disorganized on social media. I kind of just like go with the whim, but my Instagram is Stanton Chong, at Stanton Chong. I have another page on Instagram which is called Directed by Stanton. I don't know what to do with that, so I just kind of post like different pictures on it.
Cool.
And then my YouTube channel is Eunoia. I do want to do something with it one day. I just don't know what yet as well. So yeah, those are my socials.
Cool. And Lucas, what are your socials?
Everyone can find me across social media at Lucas John Hing. I'm primarily on Instagram, so you can just find me on there. Josh, where can people find you?
For me, at Josh Young Comedy. And of course, you can listen to the Sleep with Josh podcast. We came back with, I think we got about 8 new episodes now, and I'm going to put up some more, and then we're going to get back on a steady cadence. I swear to God that I will get back on a steady weekly cadence. So look forward to that. And of course, keep an eye out and check Africa, a Kung Fu Story, their website. We'll have some links down below. And watch Stanton's action flicks. I mean, watch his action shots, watch his YouTube. I mean, it's all very good. It's all very good stuff. And he put a lot of work into it. So we got to support guests of the podcast. And again, thank you so much for coming on, Stanton.
Thank you so much for having me, and this was a blast to be a part of. So thank you.
Thanks, man. Okay, cool. So we'll see everybody when we see everybody in the next episode of the podcast.
Awesome. Okay, cool. See y'all later. Bye.
Thank you.
How do I? I'll edit this. Oh no, don't. You can stay on. You can stay on.
Yeah.
How do I?
I'm just
stop recording. There we are.
I'm just gonna do some smile.